Sarah stared at her phone for the 100th time that day. There it was, the message that changed everything. Working late again, Tom had texted, but she knew better now. She had known for weeks that working late meant spending time with Jessica, the new employee at his office. It hadn't always been like this. 10 years ago, when they got married, Tom would rush home from work just to spend time with her. They would cook dinner together, laugh about their day, and plan their future. They dreamed of having children, buying a bigger house, and growing old together. Those dreams felt like distant memories now. Sarah first noticed the changes 3 months ago. Tom started coming home later and later. He would spend hours on his phone, always turning the screen away when she walked past. He bought new clothes, started going to the gym, and wore cologne, something he hadn't done in years. At first, Sarah thought he was just trying to take better care of himself. How naive she had been. The truth came out on a rainy Tuesday evening. Sarah had decided to surprise Tom at his office with his favorite takeout dinner. As she walked through the parking lot, she saw them together through the office window, Tom and Jessica, standing too close, laughing too intimately. When Jessica reached up to straighten Tom's tie, Sarah's world stopped spinning. She didn't confront them that night. Instead, she drove home in tears, the takeout food getting cold beside her. Over the next few weeks, she noticed more signs. Mysterious phone calls, unexplained credit card charges at restaurants she'd never been to, and the growing distance between them at home. Their house, once filled with love and laughter, now felt like a museum of what they used to be. Photos from happier times hung on the walls, mocking her with memories of a marriage that was slipping away. Sarah spent her evenings alone, wondering where it all went wrong. Had she not been attentive enough? Had their routine life become too boring for Tom? She tortured herself with these questions, even though deep down she knew that his choices were not her fault. Her best friend Maria became her lifeline during this time. "You need to confront him," Maria would say during their long phone calls. "You deserve the truth." But Sarah was afraid of hearing him say the words that would make it all real, afraid of what would happen to their life together, afraid of being alone. 1 month turned into 2, and 2 into 3. Sarah watched as Tom grew more distant, making excuses to avoid family gatherings and weekend plans. He stopped asking about her day, stopped sharing his own stories, stopped being the husband she had known and loved for so long. The breaking point came when Sarah found a receipt for a jewelry store in Tom's coat pocket. Their anniversary wasn't for months, and her birthday had just passed. The thought of him buying jewelry for Jessica made her physically sick. That night, when Tom came home, Sarah was sitting at the kitchen table, the receipt placed in front of her. "We need to talk," she said, her voice stronger than she felt inside. Tom's face changed as he saw the receipt, and for a moment he looked like the guilty little boy he was. "I know about Jessica," Sarah continued, her hands shaking under the table. "I know about the late nights, the dinners, everything." The silence that followed felt endless. "No." Tom sat down heavily in the chair across from her. "I didn't mean for this to happen," he said. The words she had dreaded hearing. "It just happened." Sarah wanted to scream at how unfair those words were. Things don't just happen. People make choices, and Tom had made his. The conversation that followed was long and painful. Tom admitted to falling in love with Jessica, claiming their marriage had lost its spark. Each word felt like a knife in Sarah's heart, but she listened, determined to face the truth she had been avoiding. In the weeks that followed, Sarah discovered strength she didn't know she had. She contacted a lawyer, started individual counseling, and began making plans for a life without Tom. It wasn't the life she had imagined for herself, but it was better than living in the shadow of his betrayal. Her family rallied around her. Her sister Kate insisted she come stay with her for a while. Her parents called every day, and Maria made sure she never spent a weekend alone. Slowly, Sarah started to remember who she was before she became Tom's wife. A strong, independent woman with dreams of her own. The divorce proceedings were difficult, but Sarah held her head high. She watched as Tom moved out of their home, taking with him the pieces of their shared life. Jessica moved in with him almost immediately, confirming what Sarah had known all along. Their relationship had been more than just a casual affair. 1 year later, Sarah sat in her new apartment, looking out at the city lights. The pain hadn't completely gone away, but it had changed. Instead of the sharp, desperate ache of fresh betrayal, it was now a dull reminder of lessons learned. She had survived the worst of it and emerged stronger. She thought about the woman she had been when she first discovered Tom's affair, scared, uncertain, blaming herself for his choices. The Sarah of today knew her worth. She had learned that sometimes love isn't enough, that trust once broken is nearly impossible to repair, and most importantly, that she deserved better than a half-hearted love. Her phone buzzed with a message from James, a kind man she had met in her support group for divorced people. They had been having coffee together for the past few weeks, taking things slowly, both careful with their healing hearts. Sarah smiled as she read his message, asking if she'd like to try the new restaurant downtown. As she typed her reply, Sarah realized something important. Tom's choice to love someone else hadn't destroyed her capacity to love or be loved. It had taught her valuable lessons about self-worth, resilience, and the importance of honesty in relationships. She had learned that while she couldn't control others' actions, she could control how she responded to them. The story of Tom and Jessica's affair would always be part of her history, but it no longer defined her future. She was writing a new story now, one where she was both the author and the hero. And while she couldn't say she was grateful for the pain Tom had caused, she was proud of the woman that pain had helped her become. Looking at her reflection in the window, Sarah saw someone stronger, wiser, and more confident than the woman who had discovered her husband's betrayal all those months ago. She had survived the end of her marriage, but more than that, she had discovered the beginning of herself. The city lights twinkled back at her, reminding her that even in the darkest times, there is always light to be found. Sarah picked up her phone and confirmed her dinner plans with James. She was ready to turn the page and start a new chapter, not as someone's wife, but as herself. Sarah, a woman who had learned that sometimes losing love means finding yourself.